When we're talking about hierarchy of free speech, it isn't necessarily in those people that we would call social justice warriors who we don't believe their opinions, who have stuff like that. Right. It is Katie Hopkins who's on TV. It is Piers Morgan who's got his own show. It is people like Donald Trump. It's actually not those people on the internet. They don't actually have any power. They may have a few followers, but try and get some of the people that you can't stand the most, who you think have the biggest followers and the worst opinions. Try and get them to get a slot like Piers Morgan has, not just to show up on This Morning, because some of those guys are showing up on This Morning now, but have a slot. You know what I mean? Like a slot in the building. Do you know what I mean? Those are the people with the hierarchy opinion. It's still with the elite.
The 80s, or I'd call the 90s masculine, how I was brought up in my circles, right? When you don't say something at the time, quote unquote, and I hate to use this word, I'm not gonna use it, like the P-U-double-L, right? If you don't act in that moment in time, your male friends in the 80s and 90s, they're gonna get onto you and feel like, cool, you're not masculine in that way. So I feel like even, I have it consciously in the back of my head, I don't embrace it, but again, even in saying that situation, I can be in a queue and I can hear someone say something to me. How I was ingrained through my previous social circles will make me feel like I have to be impulsive in that situation. And I don't feel that's related to narcissism. I feel like it's a hypersensitivity that I have when it comes to how I'm impacted from someone else's words or how they carry themselves around me.
We've also been like taught to hate ourselves though, and we're all working that off.
And then there's this...
But see, in that situation, I'm not even considering that person's self-hate or their mental health. I'm sensitive because you just impacted me based on what you said. That's my initial, I'm not gonna take 24 hours to process it, but I definitely would want to evolve into that. 100% I would want to evolve.
But I'm saying, if you're saying it's a result of your conditioning, because in the situations that you've grown up in, masculinity would say that if you don't respond to the situation, then you're passive, or you're not as strong or brave or whatever. But I'm saying that that's a conditioning that you're aware of. And so right now I would say we're all in the era of unlearning. That's an umbrella term that you can use. You know, we're all in this era of unlearning. So in the same way that we're working off the unlearning that we've been taught to dislike our hair, dislike our black features, is the same type of learning and unlearning that you would have to do in masculinity. You know what I mean? You have to, because are you willing to lose your life because of what your boys think? Because that is the reality that's amongst us. You know what I mean? Because you could attack those people and lose your life. And you did that for your boys, essentially.
And that's like, that unlearning stuff though as well, I think is something that I really think about in this debate, because like there's this focus on like people are becoming too offended, which I feel like can be quite like a silence and narrative, because actually partly what it is actually people are becoming more empowered and willing to say, no, I don't like what you said. And then the like societal reaction to this like change of like, oh my gosh, like oppressed people are saying they don't like it when we say racist, sexist, misogynistic, whatever ableist things, and the focus is like people are too offended, that's a negative quality, when actually it is people are more empowered, people are more able to say that they don't like what someone said, and instead of thinking, oh, our society is becoming more empowered, we go, oh, they're all pathetic and offended
everyone's
people.
sensitive
Everyone's sensitive. It's like, no, actually maybe people are more empowered and they're more willing to say that, and it's not, why are we focusing on the negative trait of being offended rather than, you know, the positive of not taking people's shit, basically.
And you're feeling something, like you're making it known that something's happened to me, right? Like even again with the whole masculinity thing, like a lot of my male friends don't admit that they hurt about anything, physically or emotionally, psychologically, they don't admit to it.
And then we have to look at the male suicide rate and understand why it's more, why it's higher.
Right.
You know, and we start to understand these things, and unlearning that kind of masculinity becomes even more imperative. You know what I mean?
So that's why I feel like there's a link between narcissism, sensitivity, and what we're aware of. Right? So if you're narcissistic, are you aware of your narcissism or your extreme overt egotism, right? If you're aware of this, you can then translate it into communicating, okay, do you know what? I'm now reacting out of an impulse. It's not that your opinion upset me, it's because I'm upset with myself. Do you know what I mean? And that's, you said something about internalizing, working on your internal future, and then, cool. Me personally, I'm gonna throw my hands out. I feel like my external environment helps me curate my internal environment.
Sorry, I was going to say that's one of the major issues that I had growing up, period, was knowing that I remember reverting to Islam like whilst I was a little older, about 19, 20, and I remember literally walking down Oxford Street, seeing these Christmas lights and feeling that, Christmas feeling, you get the Christmas spirit and that you want to have a hot chocolate jumper and be by a fireplace or whatever you imagine, And then I remember fasting for the first time, and that was an internal experience that made me see the external world differently, and that's when I thought, wow, how powerful, for me personally. So I kept on thinking, for everything that I see in the world, I can only see it that way because of my own internal condition and the way I feel about myself. So I had to build myself to a point where internally I was as strong as possible before I could even put myself in the hands of other people.
So did you build that with a community, or was that solely by yourself?
By myself and by my family.
Now, so here's the thing when we bring it to the youth now, right? They're in a generation where like they're swarmed with opinions. And conformity is ripe when you're a kid. Yeah, like when you're a kid, it takes 3 people to say, oh, this is fact. Oh, it's the truth because they said it, right?
You probably have to be a narcissist to survive that, you know? Like,
if
you're actually getting that much feedback, can you imagine how invested you have to become in yourself to resist that? Like, I'm 27, so I feel like this is the last age where you didn't actually go through that.
In school.
Constant while you're trying to learn about yourself, everyone's opinion on it. You have to become very robust in yourself to defend that, I guess.
Yeah, and I think children now, and you see it in school, you see certain kids who have 0 popularity rating in that sense, but have everything going for themselves. And those kids are usually sometimes the ones who are most sad because they don't really see their own worth, because they're not getting the validation from other people.
So you're a teacher, right?
Yeah.
So you've seen that?
Yeah, 100%. But then it's my job to build those kids. Those are the ones that I usually pick for things. Those are the ones I usually pick to be the head boy, head girl. When I was like a head of year, I remember choosing the children who I knew needed that platform. It wasn't just about the child who was loudest. It was about knowing the children who had the most to say but didn't have the friendship circles.
So here's what I want to kind of put to everyone, right? I love that. So there isn't any policing in a way of how our opinions are affected on social media, right? There isn't, oh, this is too conforming for everyone. Do you feel like there should be like a safeguarding feature where like, cool, like when you reach a particular amount of retweets or something, in terms of like the kids like in a negative, toxic way, do you feel like Twitter should be like, okay, let's cut this off now? Because if the kids are seeing this, it's going to make them feel like they have to be this way or that way.
I don't think opinions.
You don't think so?
Not opinions. I think content. Definitely, but not opinions.
Yeah.
Opinion is kind of content. It's how you use it, right?
My biggest concern on social media now is what the kids see in terms of visuals. That bothers me more than because children don't read.
Yeah,
they don't read.
Okay, what age are we talking about now?
I'm telling you, children in high school, me getting them to read a novel cover to cover is like me asking them to go on a pilgrimage.
But a novel, Twitter feed, Facebook, Instagram caption, to them that's reading.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to you is that they don't read actively enough to be conscious about it. That to them is, for example, if I tweet something about, I don't know, something I'm interested in, it might be, I don't know, when I was a kid, wrestling. A child is interested in wrestling will read that and go, oh my days, yeah, and retweet it. There's no consciousness in that, there's no depth in that, there's no substance in that. That to them is superficial and it's their world. That is what they believe to be truth and believe to be passionate about. Do you get what I mean? So I think in terms of what they see visually, when I look at the girls in year 7 who are applying makeup and they're getting their nails done and wearing acrylics and all of these sorts of things because that's their way of being big girls now because they're in high school, that bothers me more.
Why?
Because for me, I look at it as, where's the Lego? Where's the Tamagotchis? When I was a kid in year 7, did I know about sexuality? No. But there's something that they've seen that's exposed them to something early on.
Is like nail colour like representative of, is nail colour even like linked to...
No colour. I'm saying their idea now like of having boyfriends and girlfriends and all of that, that conversation didn't happen for me when I was in year 7 at school. I didn't have that at school.
We're conflating a lot of things. I'm losing the thread.
So for me, content, what they see is what's allowed them to have that idea of themselves, that they have to have the boyfriend because they see Kylie Jenner with the boyfriend.
Cool, I'm gonna jump on you anyway. Right? And forgive me, innit, if I'm doing this in the wrong way. In some way, you are still feeling like how you see them needs to change if it doesn't.
So again?
How you see the kids acting or behaving, if it's impeding what you think is an equilibrium of reality, like a balanced reality, you need to interject.
I would personally say that he seemed concerned that kids aren't kids for as long anymore. Yeah. That's what I got from that.
Okay.
That is what it is.
Okay.
And for me, I have to accept it because when the kids come to me with their boyfriend, girlfriend problems in year 7 and they say, oh my God, sir, look at the problem, and they show me a WhatsApp chat and I'm saying, well, did you have a conversation in person? All of this stuff is new to me. This concern with technology and how that impacts a relationship. Oh my God, but sir, he liked a girl's picture. What do I do? That to me is insane. But that is the way, that's their world. So I have to accept it.
No, you're
but there
right.
is a concern there.
You're right. And I feel like, I don't want to be like that shit stirrer, but I feel like there's an element of control that happens when you're surrounded by like extremely confident people who have experience, especially at a young age, right? There's this allure of like reverence involved. So bringing it back to social media, bringing it back to like narcissism, bringing it back to like that powerful ego, confidence, that can be very conforming. If you're not someone who is that, and it takes one person to be so convinced in how they think and how they feel, it could change a whole room.
But no more than, let's say, music, film, TV,
which is loaded with narcissism, like in a lot of ways.
But okay, like what I'm saying is, let's say if a young person, okay, so what are the opinions that you think are so harmful that, like, if a young person at 12, 14, because people below that age aren't really using Twitter in the same way. So let's say, and even 12 is a bit of a stretch for Twitter, but let's say 12 up till 16, which is quite vulnerable ages. What are the opinions there that are so harmful that you think that they wouldn't be able to navigate their way around potentially?
100% the whole knife crime with grime drill music. I feel like that is for me offensive, because in some ways we're perpetuating a lifestyle that is having completely clear detrimental effects on, like, black community. Period. So when I hear that, my opinion on those opinions, even if it's their narrative, because I do believe it's like my vision of my reality is now comparing itself to someone else's vision of their reality. In some way, I am imposing mine on them, but I'm like, do you not see the effect of, by promoting this opinion?
So by promoting, so what you're saying, so we're just trying to get it clear. So you're saying when people talk about drill music and grime music and promote it as a great lifestyle, let's say, you're worried about kids seeing that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But do you not think maybe the music videos and stuff like that will maybe have a lot more influence on that young mind than someone's thoughts about that music?
100%. That's why I said
it's not the visuals.
Visuals, champagne, a car, women.
No,
do you know what I mean?
I was like,
wouldn't we maybe need to maybe look at the music industry? You know, if that was a concern, because it's a bit of a concern for me too.
No, you are right.
What you voiced was like dealing with the leaves of the tree, not the root of the problem for me. So I feel like when
you just had that whole space and you just took your time and said, I think you're dealing with the leaves of the tree.
I do think it's like you can't. The people, the way people talk about something, the thing that's being talked about needs to be addressed. And I feel like when I look at music videos, kids are very visual. Everything that they learn is mimicking. So if I look at a baby is mimicking behavior, and we grow like that for a long time in our adolescence. So for us, even now at 16, 17, you know, people at that age even, they're mimicking a walk, they're mimicking a talk, mimicking a language. It's copying what they've seen. So for me, that is more harmful, because when we look at what for me, when I said to my little brother, for example, he wants to be successful, he said, the first one I'm going to do is buy mama a house. I said, we live in a house, yo. You know, there's always this idea that you're going to get rich and spend money. That's a conditioning. That's something that for me, but it's mad, because that's what you see. When we get money, we spend it. We buy the nice car, the nice house, and that denotes some sort of success. And that's, for me, that's where I say, like, it comes from what he sees. And so when I look at the other music videos and those things that are negative, it's exactly the same way a gang person gets the whole, into the knife crime and the girls and all of that, because it's what's promoted, it's visual. So the kids bring that to school often. They come and wear their trousers with 3 pairs of shorts underneath, and they've got a man bag pouch with their little weapon in it, just in case something happens in school, in maths. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy, because they take that lifestyle that they've seen and they try to perpetuate it in their life, and there's no platform for it sometimes.
Coming back a little bit more specifically, though, are we talking about how what we would want to do to stop young people developing offensive opinions? I know that young people influence and stuff, but this topic, I mean...
I think this came off the back of Lionheart maybe feeling that there should be some form of censorship in regards to young people on Twitter. And, you know, I think our argument is that, for one, I don't personally think young people use Twitter either that much. I don't think they're as engaged with those platforms, and the people that they're going to follow are not going to be what people call social justice warriors. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're going to be engaged with that type of thing. So I don't think the reading and the opinions are as harmful as the content, as in terms of, like, the music videos and the certain lives that are promoted in only one form of popular music. Because it's not, we can't, I mean, all mainstream music, you could argue, it has a lot of vanity that's promoted, but to be really centralized and, like, really just hammered home, the music from our community seems to push that lifestyle a lot more, you know, and it is fairly unchallenged. It is fairly unquestioned. So again, I think it's a valid and well worth it issue, but I don't know if it's...
Where would you limit it as well? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Where do you draw the line in?
Because you'd have nothing.
Like, it's someone's lifestyle. It's who they, essentially who they are.
Yeah.
But it's detrimental to them, it's detrimental to other people. But I'm sensitive because I can see the negative effects of it.
Right.
So do you then, again, impose your opinion because you think that's wrong? That's not helpful.
So what are you saying? Do you write that on Twitter? Are you asking?
Yeah, am I seeing like this now? Again, so all right, let's say I'm seeing the lyrics. Someone's reposting the lyrics because they think it's a bad boy lyric.
Okay, cool.
You're perpetuating it again.
Okay, cool.
I'm not cool with that.
Yeah.
Personally.
You're not cool with that, so maybe you write about the alternative. So maybe you write, yo guys, there's these 2-3 new rappers who are sick and who have a completely different message. You are the counter to that. As opposed to maybe inserting yourself in a conversation that you weren't invited to. You could potentially like see something and be like, all right, well, I'm going to be the antidote to that.
But then do I need to be invited?
Well, I think if you feel the need to insert yourself in it, I would look into that more so. I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I would look into that more so. Like, what is my need when I see things that displease me? Because there's a lot that's displeasing in the world. Yeah. So when I see things that displease me from certain people who probably don't know that much better, because I could easily get into most people's conversations often. Do you know what I mean?
But I know you make a decision not to.
Because also I know that we're in different spaces. You know what I mean? I have a completely different reality. So there's a certain privilege in being able to think in this way. You know what I mean? There's a certain privilege with that.
And also the thing that you said, that there's a lot that displeases us, and this is sometimes what I kind of have an issue with, is there's a lot that displeases us, but often the people that people want to focus in on, you know, challenging or really awful are, like, for example, when we were talking about before, like girls on Instagram that are half naked whilst writing they want to be a philosopher caption. I'm really interested why they are the people that people think that they need to like have an impact on and shut up. Or like, you know, black boys doing drill music. Oh, stop it, you're terrible. Okay, well, I'm more concerned about the Tory party, to be honest. Like, why is it the focus of these people, the people that people want to focus on, like, oh, you should stop doing that, you should stop doing that, often are quite like marginalised groups anyway, that are the easy people to attack and say, you're very harmful to society. When, like, realistically, I know that, like, drill music perpetuates, you know, negative things in the black community or whatever, but they are probably not realistically the worst thing for the black community compared to other bigger structures. But they're almost an easier one to attack, and they're the easiest thing to call very offensive, when, like, the way our education system can treat black children is far more offensive than drill music. Do you know what I mean? So who do we ask to be less offensive?
And again, I think what he said, I think we have to go to the root, because I do think, you know, all of these things contribute to how we see ourselves and the negative things that happen. But if we have that issue with drill music, then maybe you need to go to Universal or EMI and say, why do you only sign black artists that do this type of music? Why? That's a question. That's a valid question that you could put to that, because you don't see it anywhere else in popular music.
But then going to the root, is that even possible?
Yes, it is. Why not?
Sending a tweet to...
No, I'm not necessarily sending a tweet, or maybe making a campaign around it. In the same way Black Lives Matter started with a hashtag. Start your own one if it means that much to you. You know what I mean? Otherwise, some people could call it your ego or my own superiority that makes me feel like, well, I need to tell you what I think because I know better than you, because I'm more educated, because I've read more, and blah, 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 blah. And so, yeah.
I think it even goes deeper than there. You know, I think if you go to a record label, they still have artists to contact. There's artists that will seek them. How do we prevent that how do I prevent those kids from spitting those bars and feeling those ways about themselves? Because if I work in deprived areas, when I worked in London and stuff, in Neasden and wherever I've worked, Harlesden, you work in the areas where this is affluent, this is happening. How do you stop that dialogue, or how do you give them an alternative? And I always say to people, I can't go into a school and tell a child to put a gun or a knife down. I can only provide them with the alternative. This is also what you're good at. You're amazing at drama, you're amazing at basketball. How do I change that? And I think there's a lot of that, what you just said about education, is a bigger job to do before those children even get of an age where they're able to do that.
Asking children that have barely any kind of platform to have their words heard, and like, if we're talking about limiting free speech, for me, them being the people whose free speech you want to limit is just so... I just can't be on my agenda as a thing to do. Like, you know how you have barely anywhere to speak? This thing that you are saying, we're going to need you to stop that. I feel like that's just I can't... It doesn't resonate as the main focus. And then in terms of like thinking about like who can say what, if you think about like what Trump said about you grabbing by the pussy, like... He's president of the United States and he's allowed to say that. You would lose your job at Tesco for saying that. So of course there's a hierarchy to who can say that. If he can say that, like,
if we're talking about hierarchy,
he can say that.
He can say it.
Evidently, he's the president. Clearly, he can say that.
He hasn't been impeached. So what I would say, when we're talking about hierarchy of free speech, it isn't necessarily in those people that we would call social justice warriors, who we don't believe their opinions, who have stuff like that. It is Katie Hopkins, who's on TV. It is Piers Morgan, who's got his own show. It is people like Donald Trump. It's actually not those people on the internet. They don't actually have any power. They may have a few followers, but try and get some of the people that you can't stand the most, who you think have the biggest followers and the worst opinions, try and get them to get get a slot like Piers Morgan has, not just to show up on This Morning, because some of those guys are showing up on This Morning now, but have a slot. You know what I mean? Like a slot in the building. Do you know what I mean? Those are the people with the hierarchy opinion. It's still with the elite.
Yeah. And a lot of the there's no space for free speech stuff it's quite a politicised actual issue, because really often it's people on the right saying that people on the left are asking them to shut up too much, and it's like asking the world to shift away, and it's like, oh yeah, they're so sensitive, but really it's like, no, or are they challenging you? Are they being sensitive, or are they challenging actually what the structure and everything so far?
I love this. The one thing that you're making me aware of, I feel like, and you summarize it perfectly, right? We're dealing with the leaves when really there are like root problems that we're not even addressing, or maybe we're not even aware of. You've all made me aware of certain things that I'm focusing on this, but really the main thing that would even destroy this, to get rid of this or allow people to ameliorate this, is by attacking the cause and the root of the problem. And with narcissism, with free speech, with the hierarchy of that, I feel like a lot of us, thanks to this conversation, we need to start getting to the root of things rather than cutting the leaves.
But I do hear you at the same time, and I'm not trying to discredit the original type of argument that is there something dangerous happening though with being so fragile, with being so reactionary? And I don't think you can completely discount that. I think there might be, and I think, drag culture then comes into it. The fact that if you say something wrong online, you can get dragged by so many people with popular accounts and stuff like that. So there is something to look at that is worthwhile. But I think in the same way that when we came in today, and one of the first conversations was naked girls with philosopher captions, you have to understand those women with loud voices who are calling men trash are a direct reaction to that, are a direct reaction to men constantly critiquing their bodies. But it doesn't matter when men are posing with gym pictures or half naked in gym pictures all the time. There are so many Instagram accounts that are just dedicated to your packs. Do you know what I mean? It's just dedicated to
and no one's saying nothing.
No one's saying
why are you so offended? But I to me, and no offense, I'm not gonna say who started.
Listen, I ain't got no six pack.
To me, when I hear that, when it's such a common thing that you hear, say why are women looking like that saying this? And I'm just like, oh my god. If I hear this narrative again, why is that type of woman saying this type of thing? It's
why does a guy have a big gym body and hasn't saying anything?
So again, in this,
why is he not saying anything?
in that context, then, right? Would you then impede on that person's perspective then? Because
I get that he's an ignorant. I think he's an idiot.
Do you know what? Yeah, I feel like this is what's great about this conversation, right? It allows us to, again, find a subjective line where we draw it within ourselves. I'm still learning mine through this conversation, and I feel like the people watching this are gonna learn it too. And in fact, let's continue the dialogue on YouTube. What do you think? Where do you draw the line when something is offensive, when something's not offensive, when someone has a hierarchical speech, when someone's I still can't believe Trump can get away with saying that. And
I can't believe it.
And so much more.
And so much more.
I mean, you have to remember that, that Trump once said that they're very close. But no, Trump did once say that black people are just lazy and it's not their fault, it's just their condition. You know what I mean? But it doesn't stop, plenty of black men thinking, well, that's an intelligent businessman. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't stop that. There are so many people, black people voted for Trump as well. You have one famous black person who's heavily supporting him. You know what I mean? So those are the people who clearly have a hierarchy of opinion, because no matter how ignorant it is, and no matter even when it's directed strictly at you and your community, you're still praised. I think that's.
I find it interesting as well that everyone that people have mentioned are all men. Everyone who's got that, you said Piers Morgan.
Katie Hopkins.
Oh yeah, she was.
I was thinking as well some of this, when you think about when can you say where do you draw the line? I was just thinking when you're saying back to YouTube, where do you draw the line? And often, I suppose we're not really answering that. And I suppose often we draw the line at work, because what I was thinking about before this. I was thinking that actually we're so precious about often actually when we talk about free speech, we're not even talking about the actual right of free speech, because no one's arrested for anything they say or put in prison. You don't lose any of your human rights for anything that you say in the UK most of the time. We're talking about freedom of expression. And actually we live most of our days at work, and if you live in a 9-to-5 job like I do, you live outside of a realm of freedom of expression all the time. You're not allowed to say a whole bunch of things. We spend most of our waking hours not being able to say things, because ultimately when you go to work, you need that place to function. True. So we admit to ourselves all the time that when we need something to function and work, we suspend freedom of expression.
So I'm going to suspend all this freedom of expression right now, and I'm going to say, take this conversation, put it in the comments, tell us what you think. And can we give a round of applause to ourselves for even having this conversation? Seriously, thank you so much. And man, take it away. Thank you.